Good afternoon, my dear friends. I'm Magdalene Fields, 81 years young, born in 1943 in a speck of a town in rural Kentucky, so small you'd miss it on a map. If you're here, you're ready for a true story. One that broke my heart, but also built me stronger. It's a tale of betrayal, pain, and, yes, triumph. Before I dive in, I'd love if you'd give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe. It means the world to an old soul like me. Drop a comment, too, and let me know where you're watching from. This fancy smartphone shows me everything, and I'm curious who's out there listening to my story. It was 1968, and I was 26, living in a world where America was ablaze with Vietnam protests and civil rights battles. But in our quiet corner of Kentucky, life moved like a lazy river. I'd been married to Theodore for 9 years, and we had 3 beautiful children: August, 8, Marianne, 6, and little Peter, just 4. Theodore ran the biggest furniture store in the county, a respected man, always sharp in his Sunday suit, turning heads with his charm. I'll admit, I felt a glow of pride being his wife. We weren't rich, but we had a cozy home, a second-hand car, a rarity then, and I stitched dresses to help with bills. My mother-in-law, Eunice, lived with us, lending a hand with the kids when sewing orders piled up. One Tuesday in April, everything changed. I was scrubbing Theodore's clothes by hand. No fancy washers back then. When I checked his suit jacket pockets, tucked inside was a folded note, scented with lavender, a fragrance I'd never known him to wear. My heart thudded, but curiosity won. I opened it. "I'll be waiting Thursday at the usual place. With love, Sister Benedict." A nun. My Theodore, the man who prayed with our children, was entangled with a woman vowed to God. My knees buckled, I sank onto the wash stool, staring at that note until the words swam. Questions swirled. Who was Sister Benedict? What was this usual place? How long had this been hidden? I didn't breathe a word that day, tucking the note in my apron and carrying on. Cooking, tending to the kids, while my world crumbled inside. Sleep evaded me that night, lying beside Theodore's steady breaths, feeling like a stranger shared my bed. By Wednesday, I couldn't hold it in. After dropping the kids at school, I ran to Clara, my lifelong friend, a widow with a heart of steel. Sobbing, I showed her the note. She read it, her face hardening with fury and pity. "A nun," she gasped. "Theodore's mixed up with a nun. That's a sin beyond sins." I clung to hope, stammering. What if it's a mistake? But Clara's eyes were sharp. "With love, the usual place. This isn't new, Magdalene. This has roots." She was right. I started seeing signs I'd ignored Thursday. Meetings he'd started months ago, missing savings, late nights reeking of unfamiliar perfume he blamed on clients. "We're going now," Clara declared. "To the convent. We'll find this Sister Benedict." St. Joseph's Convent loomed on the town's edge, a grand stone building wrapped in gardens, home to the Sisters of St. Clare for over 80 years. They ran an orphanage, taught catechism, and were pillars of our community. But how could I just walk in and demand answers? Clara's eyes gleamed. "My sister Teresa was a nun for a decade before she left for love. She's got her old habit stored away." I caught her drift, my stomach lurching. "Dress as a nun," I whispered. It was wild, but desperation drove me. I needed to see the truth for myself. That afternoon we visited Teresa. She was appalled but handed me her old habit from a dusty attic box. "It's faded, but it'll fit," she said, her voice heavy. "Be careful, Magdalene. This could unravel everything." I didn't care about consequences. I was already unraveling. We planned for Thursday, the day the note mentioned. Clara would wait outside while I, disguised, asked for Sister Benedict under the guise of a donation. That night, I barely slept, replaying the plan. Theodore left for work Thursday morning, kissing my forehead, saying he loved me, casual as ever. "Another meeting tonight," he tossed out over breakfast. "Don't wait up." I nodded, choking on his lie. At Clara's, Teresa helped me into the habit, layers of black and white, cords, a veil pinned just so. In the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. A solemn nun stared back. Guilt flickered. Impersonating a sister felt wrong, but the note's words, with love, burned it away. Teresa coached me. Your sister Mary from the Order of St. Francis, Louisville, visiting a sick cousin. Clara drove me to the convent in her beat-up Volkswagen. Silent as my heart pounded. I'll wait here, she said at the gate. 1 hour, or I'm coming in. I nodded, legs shaky under the heavy fabric, and rang the bell. A young novice, barely 18, answered, her eyes soft and trusting. I kept my head low, voice steady. Good afternoon, sister. I'm Sister Mary from Louisville, here to see Sister Benedict about a donation for the orphanage. She hesitated, then said, Sister Benedict's in the storage barn, preparing for a celebration. My pulse raced. She was real. The novice led me through a fragrant garden, down a dim corridor thick with wax and incense. Past nuns who nodded politely. I mirrored them, praying my disguise held. At the barn she pointed to a wooden door. She's in there. Need help? No. Thank you, I said, voice trembling. Alone, I heard sounds. Music, laughter. Not holy, but festive. My gut twisted, pushing door. I froze. The music wasn't hymns. It was La Bamba, a song Theodore called sinful. The air was heavy with wine, perfume, and secrecy. In the dim light, I saw him, my husband, strumming a guitar, surrounded by 17 nuns. Some wore full habits, others partial, hair loose, faces flushed. A table held wine, fruit, a cake. 2 nuns danced in a corner. 3 sat at Theodore's feet, gazing adoringly. Behind him, a striking woman, Sister Benedict I knew, whispered in his ear, hands on his shoulders. I couldn't breathe. It was a nightmare come to life. Theodore's eyes met mine. In my veil, he didn't know me, flashing a smug smile. That grin, carefree. Sinful, snapped something in me. I ripped off the veil, my hair tumbling free. His face drained of color, the guitar crashing to the floor. Theodore, I screamed. Chaos erupted. A nun fainted, another dropped a wine bottle, red staining her habit like blood. 2 novices leapt out a window, habits flapping. The Mother Superior, wine goblet in hand, shouted Latin prayers, clutching a Bible. I stormed through the parted nuns to Theodore, who tripped over one crawling for grapes. Magdalene, I can explain, he stammered. Explain the nuns. The wine, your missing ring, I roared, noticing his bare finger. Sister Benedict stepped forward, pale. You're the wife, she said, voice shaking. I slapped her, then him. Once for our money, once for our children, once for my humiliation. Tears burned, not of sorrow, but fury. Father Anselm burst in, his voice booming. What's happening? He paled at the scene, crossing himself. I tore off the habit and left, Clara catching me at the gate. 17 nuns, I sobbed. She was stunned, bundling me into her car, giving me tea laced with brandy. At home, Eunice sat calmly with her coffee. You found out, she said, not asking. Rage flared, she'd known, washing their stained habits for years. Has my son, she shrugged. I sat, broken but resolute. The Magdalene who trusted blindly was gone. That night in 1968 changed me forever, but it also forged a strength I carry still. My mother-in-law's words stung like a slap. Fun. I wanted to hurl the teapot at her, rip out that gray bun of hers. Fun. It was treachery, a sin that shattered my family. Before I could answer, a sound came from the doorway. There stood August, my 8-year-old, in his blue pajamas, rubbing sleepy eyes. Mom, where were you? Grandma said you were at the bazaar, but isn't that on Sundays? His innocent question yanked me back to reality. My children, what would this scandal do to them? How would they face school, church, the town's prying eyes? I was helping with some church things. Sweetheart, I said, forcing a smile. Back to bed now. We'll talk tomorrow. He shuffled off, and I turned to Eunice, steel in my voice. You're leaving tomorrow. Go stay with your precious son. She bristled, knowing I needed her help with the kids, while I sued to make ends meet. And who'll watch them? She asked. I'll figure it out, I snapped. I always have, and I always will. Sleep wouldn't come that night. I sat on the back porch, staring at the stars, a cigarette burning between my fingers. A habit I'd quit before marriage. I wondered how I'd tell my children, how I'd face the town's whispers. In a place this small, secrets didn't stay secret. At 3 a.m., a clatter at the gate jolted me. Peeking through the living room window, I saw Theodore drunk, fumbling with his keys. I flung open the window. "Get out. Don't step foot in this house again." He looked up, eyes pleading. "Magdalene, please," he slurred. It was the devil's work. Those women. They're demons in habits. Demons with crosses, Theodore. I shot back, bitterness sharp on my tongue. "Leave, or I'll call the police, or maybe the bishop." He stood there, sobbing, blaming the nuns, claiming they lured him, craved sin before their vows. Not once did he own his choices. When a neighbor threatened to call the cops over the noise, he stumbled away, a broken shadow of the man he'd been. At dawn, I made a vow Theodore had destroyed my old life, but he wouldn't destroy me. I'd rebuild for my children. By morning, the scandal had spread like wildfire. At Schwakim's bakery, where I went for bread, silence fell as I entered. 6 pairs of eyes stared. Mrs. Louise, the baker, 2 gossiping old ladies, a stranger, a young couple. "Good morning," I said, chin up. 2 French loaves and a sweet roll, please." Mrs. Louise served me quietly, then squeezed my hand. "Stay strong. Magdalene," she whispered. "Men are all alike." They knew. The whole town did. Whispers trailed me at the farmer's market, where I bought vegetables. Some offered kind words, others awkward silence. At Mrs. Carmen's stand, I overheard, "Poor Magdalene, her husband ran off with a whole convent. Over 20 nuns, they say." My cheeks burned. 17, not 20, but the number didn't matter. The humiliation did. I, Magdalene Fields, devoted wife, mother, Catholic, was now the town's pity case. Back home, Eunice was fixing breakfast, uneasy in my presence. "Did the kids eat?" I asked, ignoring the tension. "Yes. They're at school," she said. August didn't want to go, said his stomach hurt. But I made him. A chill ran through me. Why didn't he want to go? She fussed with a dish towel, avoiding my eyes. Kids were talking. "You know how they are?" My heart sank. My children were already paying for their father's sins. At noon, Peter ran to me sobbing. Marianne followed, tears streaming. August, my eldest, stood stone-faced, anger in his eyes. "Kids said mean things about you and Daddy," Marianne cried. "They say he's gonna hell for liking nuns." Peter wailed, confused. August fixed me with a look too old for his years. "Is it true, Mom? Did Dad do bad things? How do you tell an 8-year-old his hero fell? Your father made wrong choices that hurt us," I said softly. "But he loves you. Then why isn't he here?" August pressed. I fumbled. Sometimes adults need time to think when they've done wrong. It felt hollow, but it was all I had. After lunch, August lingered. "I hit Jimmy today," he admitted. He called Dad a nun chaser. My heart cracked. Not only was I humiliated, but my children were fighting battles they shouldn't. At school, I met Mrs. Cecilia, August's teacher, who was kind but pitying. She'd scolded the class about respect, but her eyes said this wouldn't fade soon. "If you need time, I can tutor the boys privately," she offered. I declined. My kids needed routine, not charity. Clara came by later with cornbread and news. "The convent's in chaos," she said. "The bishop's here. 7 nuns, including Benedict, were expelled. The Mother Superior's exiled to Nebraska. And Father Anselm might lose his parish." I felt no joy, just exhaustion. Theodore was holed up at Mrs. Azer's boarding house, drinking himself numb. No surprise. He always dodged consequences. The days that followed tested my strength. Church was torture. The new priest's sermon on temptation felt aimed at me. Women kept their distance, as if betrayal were catching. Men's gazes shifted. Some pitied, others leered. Peter started wetting the bed. Marianne grew quiet. August became the man of the house, far too young. A month later, Theodore showed up at dusk. Gaunt, unshaven, a ghost of himself. "Can I come in?" he rasped. I let him for the kids' sake. He sat, eyes lingering on our old photos. Our wedding, the kids' smiles. I'm sorry, Magdalene, he said. It was madness. Benedict bewitched me. Maybe a potion, the devil's work. I stayed silent as he spun his tale, delivering furniture to the convent. Benedict's flattery. Secret guitar sessions that turned to wine, fueled parties. They were trapped, craving freedom, he said. I was weak. I cut through his excuses. Our money, Theodore, the kids' school fund, the house repairs. He looked away. I spent it on parties, gifts. Benedict liked French perfumes. My stomach churned. He'd squandered our future for a nun's whims. Leave, I said, rising. He fell to his knees, begging for the kids, for our past. August's voice stopped him cold. Dad, Mom said so. Theodore's eyes met his son's, then mine, shame finally sinking in. You made Mom cry, August said. Jimmy says you're going to hell. Is it true? Defeated, Theodore left, mumbling about returning later. August collapsed into my arms, sobbing out his broken trust. That night I broke into Theodore's locked office with a hammer. Inside I found receipts, perfumes, jewelry, a sapphire ring costing months of wages. Then, a black notebook, a ledger of his parties, nuns' contributions, expenses. Sister Benedict, from a wealthy family, paid the most. Tucked in the drawer's lining was $2,000 in unspent party profits. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a scheme. That notebook became my lifeline. The next morning, I wore my best navy dress and went to the bank, depositing the $2,000 in tainted money, but mine by right for my kids. Then I visited Dr. Mendez, the town's lawyer. He stiffened, knowing the gossip. I slid the notebook across his desk, open to his daughter's name, Sister Cecilia. I want a divorce, I said. Full custody. The house, alimony. Theodore signs or this goes public. His face paled as he scanned the pages. This is serious, Mrs. Fields. So is my family's future, I replied. The church lost its say when its nuns danced with my husband. By evening, Theodore signed everything. Custody, the house, half his salary. The fastest divorce our town ever saw. Sunday, I dressed in elegant black, put the kids in their finest, and marched to church. We took the front pew, heads high, defying whispers. After communion I stood, voice clear. Father, I'm donating to the convent's renovation. I handed over some of the party money, keeping enough for my plan, and I'll cater Our Lady's feast for free. The church buzzed, but I stood tall.